Hello, thank you for joining us to the panel Growing Menace of Cyber Crimes in India. We're here with the Professor of Criminal Justice, Arvind Verma, from the Indiana University, Bloomington. And I now pass the floor to him for his presentation.
Okay, thank you, Anna. And thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar. I don't know where you may be located right now, but I'm in Bloomington, Indiana, which is in the Midwest of the US. And my co-author is Riti Raj, and she's a senior police officer in the Indian Police Service, serving in a place of all and it has a very interesting name. The city itself is called Cyberabad, the city of cyber, exchanges. And she's a senior officer there managing the cyber cell in her state unit. There's some problem she's facing joining from India. It's almost midnight there. Hopefully she will join us, and then she will be making most of the presentation. But I'm going to begin right here. Now, as perhaps everybody knows, this has become a cliche, but in the past 2 decades, the IT industry and the infrastructure has grown tremendously in the country. We have a very large number of telecom penetration and internet connectivity in a country of 1.4 billion people. There is a vast coverage in the rural areas also. Almost in every family, you will find a cell phone, a smartphone, and government has facilitated linking to a variety of IT services through the smartphone. So this has ensured that there are almost everybody, at least one person in the family, is covered by some kind of an IT service. And many specific mechanisms have been developed around this IT connectivity. One of the most famous one is something called Aadhaar, which is a biometric-based identity. And the government has now covered almost everybody in the country, and it has been witnessing something like billions and billions of transactions, wherever you can do your banking, you can do your payments, you can do your applications, you can apply for job, you can do reservations, everything, whatever you can do on the IT, you have a backup, which is your biometric identities provided as a background. And therefore, this has enabled virtually the entire country to become part of the IT platform. One of the recent scheme was something called a direct payment scheme, something called UPI, which is now covering more than 800 million people. And then again, as we mentioned, SIM card, bank accounts, and the creation of websites. I mean, it's just overflowing in every direction and on and on. Now, obviously, one problem with this growth is that there is a simultaneous growth in cyber crimes. And I think our DCP, Riti, has just joined. Riti, very good, Riti. Can you hear me? You are mute.
Good evening, sir.
Good
Yes,
evening.
sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible. And please, can you take off? I have just introduced the first slide, growth of IT, and you can also add something to that. So start from there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. A very good afternoon to all the respected panelist members and all the audience of the webinar. As sir has already introduced, we'll be speaking about the growing menace of cybercrimes in India. So as sir was saying, that after the development of the IT industry, the boost of technical advancement in the country has had its advantages as well as disadvantages. What sir just mentioned as the Aadhaar and the financial payments which have been developed indigenously, for example, the UPI, they have allowed the people to be involved deeply into the financial sector, but it has also has had its negative sides. So even though we have about a population of 1.4 billion people who have been connected through the internet, through the telecom, and through the digital financial payments, now we are seeing a negative side of the same. Now, because these services have been allowed to include people to ensure maximum inclusivity and participation, we have seen that there is ease of access to various instruments like SIM cards, bank accounts, and creation of websites. What it has led to is that it is being now abused instead of being used. And this basically forms the basis of the cyber crimes, which are increasing at a very high rate in the country. Now, SIM cards, bank accounts, and websites are something which are supposed to be used by the common masses. It is supposed to uh, give a boost to the economic growth of the country. But the ease of access and lack of stringent supervision has led to its misuse. So, sir, if we can go to the next slide,
Yeah.
sir.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. So, as we can see that we have observed a growth of a parallel economy where the money defrauded from the victims because of these cyber crimes has been circulating in large volume. So, for the purpose of the paper, we will be focusing more on the cyber crimes issues in India instead of the cyber attacks, which is more of a cyber security perspective. As law enforcement authorities, we deal with the issues of cyber crimes, which means that these are the offenses which affect the individuals and the masses at the level. So the parallel economy, when we say that, what we mean is that the number of cyber crimes have increased to a level that all the money which is defrauded from the victims are being circulated using the same financial system which had initially been developed to promote the growth, the economic growth of the country. Another challenge which we are facing is the rise of the cryptocurrency exchanges. What that has done is that it has provided an easy way to the fraudsters to cash the money which they have defrauded from the victims out of the formal economy and into the informal and the shadow economy. What this has done is, since these cryptocurrency exchanges are very decentralized in manner and have still not been completely systematized, and there is a sort of lack of regulation on the same, the law enforcement authorities are facing very severe challenges. As of now, the cryptocurrency ATM concept has not gained its ground in India, but uh, taking the lessons from the Western countries where it has grown, it has shown to have encouraged the use of mules. Mules are something which are increasingly used by the cyber fraudsters to ensure they get the money out of the victims as well as prevent and evade their own detection by the law enforcement authorities. So, when we talk about the nature of cyber crimes in India, this is what we see that their new methods have arisen because of which the fraudsters are able to get away. And now, so the next slide, please. So, considering the nature of the cyber crimes which are increasing, we need to first understand what is the method by which we are able to have some visibility over the incidents, the cybercrime incidents. So, the government of India has created a very robust mechanism which we call as the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. What this portal does is that it has a helpline attached to it. The helpline call number is 1930. So, anytime an individual is affected or becomes a victim of a cybercrime, they can call this helpline and report it on this portal. What this does is that it allows the law enforcement authorities to use the golden hour of reporting. Just like in cases of accidents, where we have a time period of 1 hour, where if we take the action, we have high chances of saving the life of the victim. Similarly, in a cybercrime incident, if we take action within the first couple of hours, we have a higher chance of freezing or at least saving the money which has been lost. Now, I want to bring the attention of the panelists here that here we are focusing only on the financial crimes. When we talk about cyber crimes, we have a lot of other varieties of cyber crimes where finance is not necessarily involved. We have a lot of sexual harassment related cases, we have cyberbullying cases, we have defamation cases. But the NCRP has been most effective in combating and controlling the financial related cyber crimes. So how it works is that once people report, because all the banks and financial authorities are also part of this portal. They are able to take action because every time the fraudster would have convinced the victim to transfer the money to some or the other bank accounts, which is still in the formal economy of the country. Now, once the money goes to the bank account and victim realizes that they have been defrauded, after the report, the bank gets a notification that in this particular account, some amount has come which has been because of a crime. So that bank reports it, and then a chain follows. Wherever that money has gone, how all the accounts to which that money has been transferred, all those banks act up and they report it. And whichever bank still finds it in their bank account, they freeze that money. So the NCRP has been very efficient in actually saving the money which has been lost by the victims. Once it is frozen, once it is put on hold, we have a judicial mechanism by which the victims can get back the money from the court. Now, as we can see, if we see the data, consider to just have a visibility of the cybercrime incidents in the last 1 year, more than 2,200,000 complaints have been received. Now, what has happened is that just in this year, if you can see the data, 1062807, that is in Indian numeric terms, 10,62,000 crimes have been reported which just deal with financial crimes, as in those crimes where people have lost the money. So, and we can see that a few of the categories are where wishing frauds are there, internet banking related frauds are there, part-time job frauds, investment frauds. These different MOs are nothing but the different schemes which the fraudsters employ to defraud the people. Sir, if we can go to the next slide, sir, please. Now, to be able to explain to you the exact nature of these crimes, we will be presenting a few case studies. Now, these case studies are all actual cases which we have investigated and analyzed. So, one of the major examples is matrimonial cum investment fraud. Now, this is one of the modus operandi which has been very common. How it starts off is that in India, we have a lot of matrimonial sites or even dating websites. So the fraudsters become a part of it. They create their profiles and they reach out to as many people as they can. Even if 10% or even 5% of the victims, if they respond, they start developing a relationship of confidence and trust with the victims. And mind you, these fraudsters have a lot of patience and they are able to invest in the relationship for over a period of 2 to 3 months. And once they know that they have developed that confidence in the victim, they start enticing them towards investments. Now, as of today, crypto investments is the new cool thing, which everybody wants to be a part of. There is a very small portion of the population which actually understand the technicalities, but everybody wants to be a part of it. So when some trusted person, somebody in whom you have confidence, they invite you, you start investing by small amounts. And this is what happens with the victims. Initially, they will ask the victims to invest very small amounts and they also return the profits. They make sure that I think this is what in the Western language is called the pig fattening scheme, where you fatten up the pig till the time you know that they are ready for slaughter. So once they start investing heavy amounts, that is when the fraudsters prevent them from withdrawing any money. And they will use various schemes. For example, they will say that, right now the market is down. That's why you're seeing losses. Or you don't withdraw right now. Your money is going to grow so much more. You will get a lot of profit. Or if you want to withdraw, you have to pay this much fees. You have to pay processing fee. You have to pay legal fee. So under some or other excuse, they prevent the people from withdrawing any money. And if they still want to withdraw, they will ask them to pay a lot of charges and they say that it will all be recouped once you are allowed to finally withdraw the money, which we know that never happens. Now, how the confidence is developed in the victim is that when they ask them to invest, these fraudsters create proper accounts and proper websites where people can see the money they have invested and how much it has grown, in what all stocks it is being invested, in what kind of cryptocurrency it is being invested. So using fake graphs and fake data, the fraudsters give this impression. Now, the data that we have here is that in most of the cases, if we take an average, more than 10.2 million amount has been lost. And again, I would want to bring your attention that this is just the money which we are talking from the perspective of a small unit in the entire country. And if we see the bigger data, the loss is even more. The basic problem in investigation of these cases is that all these people are using websites which have been created and registered in domains which are hosted outside of the Indian jurisdiction. Now, that presents a big jurisdictional issue for us in investigation, because those domain registrars are not under any legal obligation to respond to us. And then we need to pursue through the procedures of MLAT. And since that is very cumbersome, we are not able to investigate at the rate at which these offenses are happening every day. Sir, if we can go on to the next case, sir. The second one is the trading fraud. Again, a major modus operandi which the fraudsters are using these days. Here, what happens is the previous case, if I can remind you, was matrimonial come investment. So they start building a relationship, a romantic relationship, and then they entice the people into investing. In trading, the fraudsters simply abuse the emotion of greed in the people. They will tell them that, and what we have seen is on various platforms like social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook, we have a lot of reels getting circulated where people portray and popularize that they have invested in this and this website and they have received a lot of profits. How it works is that the fraudsters create these websites and synthetically boost its presence throughout social media using advertisements and different boosting mechanisms. This ensures that those websites are popularized throughout the users, throughout the people who are using the social media profiles. And what we have to consider is that the effort it takes the fraudster to popularize it throughout these different media is very small, even in terms of economic scale. And even if 10 to 20% of their conversion, of their popularization converts into people actually responding and coming to the website, their work is done. So once generally the um, conditions by which these people work is that they will ask you to invest in that website through that website. Again, the website is a fraud website here. People think they are investing the money. They get profits also. It gets credited into their account. And then they are told to popularize it. They are told to, that you have received so much profits. So if you want to receive higher profits, you please put up reels or put up your social media posts so that more people come in. Now, again, in the trading fraud here, just the cases which have happened in our unit allow around 80 million has been lost to these kinds of crimes. Now, another major problem, just like I highlighted in the matrimonial investment fraud, here also I will highlight the major problem in investigation. In trading fraud, our major mode of investigation is through the bank accounts, through which the victims have paid the money and the beneficiary accounts to which money has gone. Here, since the cybercrime investigation is totally dependent on the data we get from the service providers, the banks become very important. Unless they give us the information of the account holder who is receiving the money, it becomes difficult for us to proceed. And as of now, the banks are taking more than 35 days to respond to our queries. And mind you, this is actually an improvement. Until last year, the banks were taking more than 2 months because they were also getting used to facing and responding to huge data requests from law enforcement authorities all over the country. So they have been able to install a system, and we are working together to ensure that their system becomes improved enough so that they can respond within a matter of days. Because right now they're responding within 35 days, and fraudsters are withdrawing the money from the accounts within a matter of an hour or two maximum. And they're switching the accounts they are using within a matter of days. So we are, as of now, very far behind in actually investigating these cases very efficiently. Another problem is that the crime which has been committed here, the act, that according to the Indian Penal Code, which is the main substantive law of India, has a punishment of less than 7 years, which allows the bail to be received by the accused in a much easier manner. Now, what we mean by bail here is that unless it is extremely necessary for the person to be arrested because of the heinousness of the crime and gravity of the crime, the bail is the rule. The person has to be released either on judicial bail or on police bail, and he can only be brought to the law enforcement authorities as and when needed for the purpose of investigation. So what this does is that we are not able to keep the person in judicial custody, and it allows him a lot of time to continue committing his crimes. Sir, if we can go to the next slide, sir. This is the third kind of fraud, which we face a lot. This is the customer care fraud. Now, as of today, every service, every product that we use has a customer care department to deal with. If you have a credit card that you have an issue with, if an appliance breakdowns in your house, you always contact the customer care of the company. What these fraudsters do is, again, they create fake websites and they put their own phone numbers as customer care number of very legitimate and popular companies. Cloning websites these days is not very difficult, and neither is replacing the fake telephone numbers. Just what I had mentioned in trading fraud, here also the fraudsters boost these fake telephone numbers so that when you search on different search engines, maybe Google, maybe Bing, any search engine, when you search for the customer care of a particular company, high chances are that these fraudster phone numbers and fraudulent websites will pop up at a higher level, and the legitimate ones will come on the next page. And as is a normal tendency, anybody will click the first 3 to 4 links on the first page. So this gives the fraudsters a very bigger pool of victims to defraud. A big problem in this customer care fraud is that once you go to those phone numbers and once you start talking to them, they will convince you to download a remote access app. When the victims are downloading the remote access app, they don't understand what it means. Remote access app actually gives the fraudster visibility to everything that the victim is doing on their device, maybe the laptop, maybe the phone. And the way they convince is that if you download this application, sir, we will be able to help you resolve the grievance that you have. Now, once they ask them to download this remote access app, they ask them to make an advance payment. And the advance payment is so small in amount. Maybe in INR, it is 5 rupee or 10 rupee. And after people do it, what they don't realize is when they are putting in their financial details, because of the remote access app, the fraudster has visibility to all the financial credentials. Then they use the same credentials and initiate a transaction on your account. And in India, the system is that once you initiate a transaction, you get a one-time password. Only when you provide the one-time password on the banking application or the financial application does the authorization of transaction happen. So fraudsters take this OTP from you and do the transaction. So the victim might have spent only 5 rupees in the beginning, but now his entire bank savings are gone. And after that, they stop responding to the calls. Another disturbing issue, which we have seen with this customer care agencies, is that we dealt with a case where a customer care company, an agency, had been given the customer care responsibilities of a very renowned national bank, and the employees of that company were stealing the data which was coming to them. Now, mind you, that data contained all the financial details, because to be able to redress the grievances, of the people, of the customers of the bank, these employees of these agencies need to have those details. So they were actually taking screenshots of all the data and supplying it to fraudsters. So they would become the data brokers. They would provide data to the criminals, and criminals would use that data to convince the victims and defraud the fraudsters. So, after all our investigations, this is the cycle that we could find. Now, as I had mentioned, again, the problem in investigation of these cases is that all these fake websites are created on and hosted on domain registrars, which are based out of the Indian jurisdiction. So again, the investigation becomes quite cumbersome. Sir, if we can go to the next one, sir. Now, if we understand, so these were the main modus operandi, the major crime trends in cyber crimes which we are facing in India. Now, if we delve into the details of the offenders, who are these people and what is the reason why they are involved, why they are being involved in these cyber crimes at such a large scale, we see that most of the people we have apprehended are males in the age of 20 to 40. One disturbing trend we saw was that after the COVID scenario, after the COVID epidemic, a lot of young individuals who were working in software companies, who had technical knowledge, lost their jobs. Now, once they lost their jobs, they were diverted to this area. And since committing cybercrime is very cheap, with very high returns and very low legal deterrence, it became a very attractive means of alternate livelihood. And once these people went in, there was no coming out. One, because of lack of livelihood, and second, because of the lack of deterrence. So, how they start off is that they are recruited by people from their neighborhoods, from their villages. So, we have identified a lot of hotspots in the country. And most of these hotspots are in areas where poverty is a major problem. People are giving out their bank accounts, they are renting out their SIM cards, and they are agreeing to be mules just in return of some commission. And this has become a major issue. Now, the work, you have to understand that these offenders deal in a very organized manner, and they are divided into different groups. One crime gang, the first, some people will be responsible for getting the data of the victims. One will be responsible for sourcing of these mule accounts and mule SIM cards. Another will be responsible for creation of the fake websites and circulating it. And another will be responsible for reaching out to the victims, calling them. And another will be responsible for keeping a tab on how much money has come from each of the victims, how much has to be paid, and what is their current status. Now, all this requires minimal education and anonymity. And this is what has been provided by the ease of access to all these services. Now, sir, if we can move on to the next one, sir. Now, if we, as I had mentioned earlier, the reason these offenders are coming in is because of lack of appropriate legal deterrence. So we will
I'm
just
sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, ma'am.
I'm really sorry, but we need to wrap up because the next session is starting. So if
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can
Just in
conclude
a
us.
minute, I will wrap it up, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. So basically, the laws governing cybercrimes in the country, they had been adopted in the year 2000 and revised in 2008. Now, at that time, the cybercrimes issue was not very major. So all the punishments which are there in the IT Act and which are there in the Indian Penal Code, which is the substantive law, have punishment of less than 7 years. That makes it easy for these people to get bail. And what happens is that the sections which allow us to enforce getting data from these different service providers also do not have any follow-up punishments. So because of which we are only trying to convince the service providers to give us the information. And this makes the investigation not very effective. So the next slide, please. So as we can just see that the IT Act 2000, it talks about offenses where the computer system network is a medium for committing the offense or is the target of an offense. And it criminalizes certain actions like identity theft, cyber terrorism, and transmission of material containing sexually explicit images. Now, it does cover the responsibilities of intermediaries and provisions where they can be exempted. However, they are not covering the newer forms of crime which are coming. For example, somebody posing as bank officials and getting all the information for transaction. Now, because the punishment is less than 3 years, the bail is immediate even when the offenders are cheating 50 to 100 customers. So the next slide, please. Now, this is the case where I had mentioned this was a big data theft case. So this is the case by which the Cyberabad police was able to understand that the data brokers are stealing data from different agencies and providing it to gangs who are using it to defraud people. And these data brokers were running companies. So we had the organization related data was sold, individual related data, financial data, everything was sold. And this is what the fraudsters were using to convince the victims. Now, the next slide, sir, please. So if we just see the suggested policies to deal with cybercrimes is that we need stricter laws with enhanced punishment, even though the actual offense is simply of cheating, simply of putting up a WhatsApp DP of a senior official, it entails and it results in the individuals losing their entire life worth savings. So the economic impact of the crime is such that it has led to people committing suicides. It has led to complete breakdown of a lot of families. The IT service providers, the social media intermediaries who are providing a lot of services need to be held accountable for letting their services being abused by the criminals. The financial institutions need to be more vigilant. And the private sector institution, for example, the banking authorities, the telecom service providers, the domain registrars, they need to be made accountable and responsive to the requests made by the law enforcement authorities. Now, another important point is that we cannot neglect the awareness creation amongst the members because every day we are facing increasing crimes. And as we know, prevention is better than cure. So, along with all the steps that we take, awareness creation is much more important and it needs to be taken very seriously by everyone in the country. And that's all I have to say. And I hope this session has been enlightening to you.
Thank you, Rituraj.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Anna, if there are any questions, you can share them with us, or if you have another session, then you can post them, send them to me, and we can send our replies.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You can continue the conversation on the Huova platform with your peers, and we really appreciate you being here and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Okay.
Have a great day.